Hello, everybody. I'm Donna L., and welcome to day 2 of our virtual Expo Chattanooga. In case you missed day 1, be sure to head over to the exhibit hall, where our exhibitors have set up virtual booths. You can visit them and learn about their company and exchange information. Or you can stop by the networking lounge, moderated by chamber employees. This lounge features a Zoom call that will be running throughout our program today, in case you want some face-to-face time with your fellow attendees. Meanwhile, right here in the auditorium, we're going to be hearing from these great business categories today: professional services, finance and legal, healthcare and insurance, media and advertising, and nonprofits. We're also going to hear from those leaders within these sectors about how companies are adjusting a year later post-pandemic, starting with Justin Groenert, Vice President of Public Policy at the Chamber. He's got his finger on the political pulse in Nashville, and he's going to let us know what to expect on the legislative front in months ahead.
Good morning. I'm Justin Greiner, Vice President of Public Policy for the Chattanooga Area Chamber of Commerce. 2020 was a year like no other. In Hamilton County, we've weathered a global pandemic, a tornado, and a partial economic shutdown. Our business community has shown its resilience as we've turned the page from 2020 to 2021. Business activity is picking up, tourists are coming back, vaccines are being administered, and life is slowly returning a little more normal. Our focus at the Chattanooga Chamber over the last year has been to be a trusted resource for our members and the broader community, from explaining complex legislation and government mandates to highlighting efforts of the national, state, and local governments to slow the spread of COVID-19. As we saw COVID-19 begin to change our world in mid-March of 2020, we saw swift bipartisan efforts in Congress to address the fallout, both medically and economically. The 5 congressional packages, 4 having passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, have totaled over $5.2 trillion to help offset the economic impacts of the pandemic. Operation Warp Speed was the government's program designed to find a vaccine to defeat the COVID-19 virus. Those efforts and the support from the medical community led multiple vaccines being in development in record time and released around the world to end the emergency medical crisis. The CARES Act was a $2 trillion comprehensive package aimed to slow the economic damage being done as the government temporarily closed businesses to slow the spread of the virus. The bill created the Paycheck Protection Program. The program provided a lifeline for small business owners that were shuttered or adversely impacted by COVID-19. These loans can be converted to forgivable grants so long as the company kept employees on the payroll and used the funds for overhead and to address keeping their businesses safe and clean. The program has facilitated almost 10 million loans nationally to the tune of $755 billion. In Tennessee alone, 89,000 businesses participated in the program, injecting $3.6 billion into Tennessee's small businesses. 2020 also saw a sea change in the balance of power in Washington, D.C. Joe Biden was elected the 46th President of the United States. The Democrat majority tightened in the House of Representatives, but the Senate found themselves in a 50-50 tie, moving the majority control of the chamber to the Democrats, with Vice President Harris being able to break any tie vote. Democrats will have control of the work of Congress until at least the midterm elections in 2022. When looking at Congress's work for the next 2 years, the Senate will be the legislative battleground. Currently, for legislation to move to the Senate floor, it requires the votes of 60 senators to end debate and move the bill to a final vote. Because there will need to be 10 Republicans willing to help Democrats move legislation, it will be very difficult for President Biden and Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to pass many of their priorities without the help of Republicans. As we've already seen, the Senate majority will look to use budget reconciliation as a way to move legislation through the Senate while only needing 50 votes to pass it. The Senate majority used this to pass President Biden's American Rescue Plan, the most recent $1.7 trillion economic stimulus package. Look for reconciliation to be used in the Senate again as Congress takes up President Biden's transportation and infrastructure package this spring. At the state level, the Tennessee General Assembly is in full swing and headed towards finishing its work for 2021. COVID-19 and the impact it has had on students has been a key focus for Governor Bill Lee and the legislature. In mid-January, Governor Lee called the legislature into a special session to address issues pertaining to learning retention, reading, student testing, and teacher pay. Those priorities were passed and signed into law in January, allowing for plenty of time for schools to be able to implement these programs. The fiscal year 2022 budget amendment was released last week. This $42.6 billion budget will begin to work its way through the legislative process. The governor's budget is taking a prudent and cautious approach to budgeting coming out of the pandemic while making its focus a return to pre-pandemic priorities, along with some long-term strategic investments. Small business relief remains a key focus of the legislature as well. Recently, Governor Lee signed the Business Fairness Act into law. This bill will allow businesses that comply with safety precautions and guidelines issued from the government or authorized agency during a declared state of emergency to continue or resume business. This will help protect small businesses who comply with public guidelines from disadvantages with larger businesses and competitors that could be deemed essential. As many businesses have taken advantage of the federal relief opportunities, the state has offered several programs to provide funding for small businesses. The state of Tennessee created the Supplemental Employment Recovery Grant Program and provided direct small business relief to businesses across the state. Senate Bill 775 is a change to the Tennessee tax code that ensures excise tax deductions on funds from any of those state-run programs, meaning you won't have to pay taxes on those funds. We expect the legislature to adjourn in early May and will continue to monitor and advocate on behalf of our members until the legislature wraps up. At the local level, we look forward to working with Chattanooga's new mayor, Tim Kelly, and the 3 new city council members, Councilwoman Raquetta Dotley, Jenny Hill, and Isaiah Hester, who took office last Monday. The mayor and city council are critical partners of the chamber in our economic development, workforce, talent, and diversity and economic mobility initiatives. We are grateful for the efforts of County Mayor Jim Coppinger, the County Commission, the Hamilton County Department of Health, former Chattanooga Mayor Andy Burke, the City Council, our first responders, our hospitals, doctors, nurses, the entire medical community, our nonprofit partners, and the community as a whole for their work in rebuilding the East Ridge area and the continued fight against COVID-19. One of the top objectives of the Chamber's public policy efforts is to effectively communicate our public policy efforts to increase engagement and awareness of our members. Since the pandemic began, the Chattanooga Chamber has been laser focused on ensuring our members and the community had the most up-to-date information about federal, state, and local responses to the COVID-19 pandemic and programs aimed to help your business. In March 2020, we launched a public policy email update. We've published over 200 editions, providing news, updates, and information useful to you. These emails go out Monday through Thursday. We've hosted multiple webinars, breaking down the various legislative packages and discussing the COVID response with leaders around our community. Most recently, we released monthly chamber chats. These conversations with local, state, and federal officials are a way to provide you with unique and direct information straight from the source on issues important to the Chattanooga business community. New in 2021, we'll be hosting a virtual federal focus event aimed at taking a deeper dive on what's happening in Washington, D.C. We'll talk to Chattanooga's federal delegation and some special guests to discuss the issues before Congress and their impacts on Southeast Tennessee. To sign up for the public policy updates or inquire on the Chamber's public policy work, please shoot me an email at jgroenert@chattanoogachamber.com. Lastly, I want to say thank you to you, our members, and the broader Hamilton County business community for leading the way in a very trying time. As we continue to move forward from the pandemic, we look forward to working with you and your business to create the best atmosphere for you to be as successful as possible. Have a great day.